In 1996, a strange ritual unfolds featuring masked boys in school uniforms dancing around a frightened captive. The scene then transitions to the present day, where a funeral takes place at an opulent estate. Maya, a young widow, holds her daughter Lily tightly, attempting to suppress her grief. Memories of meeting her late husband Joe at a charity event and their wedding day flood Maya's thoughts. However, the joyous recollections turn grim as she envisions Joe's bloody demise, shot before her eyes. At Joe's funeral, Judith, Maya's affluent and disdainful mother-in-law, makes little effort to hide her contempt for Maya. Back at home, Maya's friend provides her with a nanny cam to monitor Isabella, the nanny. Initially hesitant, Maya eventually watches the footage, revealing a startling image: a man resembling Joe, dressed in his clothes, affectionately interacting with Lily in the playroom. Maya confronts Lily, who denies having seen her daddy. Maya rushes to Joe's closet and finds his shoes and shirt gone, making her wonder whether Joe is still alive. She confronts Isabella, her nanny, about the footage of Joe, her supposedly dead husband, holding Lily. Isabella acts clueless and offended, infuriating Maya. Isabella blinds Maya with pepper spray, grabs the SD card, and flees. Detective Sergeant Cami Kir visits Maya's house to interrogate her further about Joe's death. He notices her inflamed eyes from Isabella's pepper spray attack. Maya tries to show him the nanny cam footage of Joe, but it has disappeared. Sammy doubts her and suspects she is hallucinating from grief. Maya recounts the night Joe was shot again, and Sammy requests to see her guns. As a former soldier with PTSD, Maya has a stash of registered firearms in a thumbprint-locked cabinet. Sammy spots a gun in a display cabinet that is supposed to be deactivated and unloaded, but he recognizes it as the same model that killed Joe and confiscates it as evidence. Sammy has a secret of his own, though. On his way to the station, he loses consciousness and crashes his car into a fence. He sends a text to an unknown contact saying, "It happened again," implying that it's not the first time. His boss is furious and pairs him up with a rookie cop named Marty McGregor. Maya suspects a red car is tailing her as she drives to Eddie's place. She notes the license plate and asks Shane, her colleague, to look it up. Eddie, Maya's brother-in-law, is still grieving for his wife, Claire, Maya's sister, who was killed. He has 2 kids to raise alone, and Maya and Eddie have a strained relationship. Maya visits Farnwood, the mansion of Joe's family, to confront Isabella and get the SD card. Isabella avoids her and flees in her car. Maya chases her to a forest where Isabella abandons her car and runs away. Maya confronts Judith about Joe's appearance on the nanny cam, but Judith brushes her off. At Maya's house, Sammy and Marty drop a bombshell. The gun in her cabinet killed both Joe and Claire, her sister. The episode closes with Judith visiting Joe's grave next to another one for Andrew Burkett. A flashback reveals a 1996 ritual with masked boys and a captive in a chair. Was it Joe's brother? Isabella is shown erasing the nanny cam video of Joe. The episode begins with a flashback of Maya at an army base, receiving a devastating phone call from Joe, stating that Claire, her sister, is dead. In the present, Detective KS and Marty are still investigating the murders of Claire and Joe at Maya's house. They question Maya about the nature of Claire and Joe's relationship. Maya insists they were just friends and colleagues, and there was no romance. The detectives finish their interrogation, and on their way out, Detective KS confronts Marty about lying to Maya about his marital status. He warns him not to lie again as it is unprofessional and unethical. The next day, Maya leaves Lily at a daycare center and goes to work, but she can't stop thinking about the gun linked to Claire's death. She decides to visit Eva, Claire's closest friend. Maya hopes that Eva can shed some light on Claire's last days. Eva has her own troubles with a violent ex but agrees to help Maya. Eva tells Maya that Claire was behaving oddly before she died. She remembers a lunch they had together, where Claire received a call on a secret phone and looked nervous. Maya is angry that Eva didn't tell the police about the phone or ask Claire more questions. Eva says she was afraid that Claire was cheating on Joe and didn't want to expose her after she was gone. Maya storms out after yelling at her. Meanwhile, Nicole confronts CS about his health and attendance. She is his sponsor at AAA and worries about his well-being. She urges him to get a medical checkup, but he is afraid of losing his badge if he is diagnosed with something serious. She recommends a discreet clinic that can help him. Maya goes to Claire's home and searches for clues in her sister's old hidden spot. She finds a secret phone, but it has no power. Eddie catches her and tries to take the phone from her. He denies that Claire was cheating on him but confesses that they had grown apart. Maya fights him off and escapes with the phone. Claire's daughter witnesses the scuffle and wonders what phone her father is talking about. She becomes curious about her mother's past and asks Eddie more questions. He lets her and her brother look through Claire's belongings. They discover a camera with photos of Claire when she was young and pregnant. Marty and Kir pursue their investigation at the station. They suspect that Isabella, the Burkett's nanny, knows more than she lets on. They decide to pay her a visit and question her. They find Isabella at her apartment, accusing Maya of being insane and seeing visions of Joe. She denies any involvement in the SD card theft and claims that Maya assaulted her for no reason. She also dismisses the idea that Joe and Claire had an affair, saying that Joe loved his wife but thought he deserved better than Maya. Meanwhile, Maya plugs in the secret phone and checks its contents. She notices a number that Claire dialed frequently before she died. She searches the number online and learns that it belongs to an arcade club nearby. She goes to the club and tries to get some information. Maya receives a reminder from Judith about the will reading tomorrow. She spots the red car tailing her again and fears for Lily's safety. She picks up her daughter from daycare and hurries home. She puts back the SD card in the photo frame and falls asleep. The following day, Curse collapses on his kitchen floor. He worries about driving his pregnant fiancée to the clinic, picks a fight with her, and makes her drive instead. They reach the hospital and see their baby on the ultrasound. Curse loves his family, but hides his blackouts from his fiancée. Meanwhile, Shane tells Maya about the car that's been following her. He only knows that it's owned by a mysterious company called WTCX. He vows to dig deeper while Maya goes to the will reading. Shane tells Maya that she could use the inheritance to deal with Corey the whistleblower who is back in town. Maya is angry at this, as she lost her job for helping him expose some Army SE secrets. She says she gave him a recording, but he only used part of it. Shane fears that Corey's comeback means more trouble, but Maya wants to forget the past and move on. The family gathers to hear Joe's will, but they're shocked when the lawyer says there is a delay. They still don't have the death certificate. Caroline, Joe's sister, shares her doubts with Maya. She finds it weird that there is no death certificate and mentions Andrew's death. Andrew was their dead brother. Joe said Andrew killed himself, but their mom said he died in a sea accident. Caroline thinks Joe and Andrew were their mom's favorites. She asks Maya if she saw Joe's corpse and says Judith wouldn't let her see Joe's body. Caroline has doubts about Joe's death for two reasons. First, she never saw his body, and Judith refused to let her see it. Second, she found out that the family is secretly paying Detective Curse. Maya is stunned by this revelation. She tries to reassure Caroline that Joe is really dead. As Abby and Daniel examine the photos, they spot another hint. The note with the sunflowers could be from Abby's old flame in 2003, who might be the same person she talked to on a hidden phone. Daniel snaps a picture of the guy and uses an app to find out who he is now. His name is Alexander Dosman, the boss of Bimble, a big tech company. He moved to their town 8 months ago. Curse and McGregor focus on Eddie as a possible killer of Joe. Even if he has an alibi for Claire's death, Curse got tested for his blackouts but hides it from everyone else. He lets others drive him and blames his crash on the cat, but KS is getting worse. He nearly faints twice when they see Eddie, and McGregor sees it the second time. The visit is not useless, though. Eddie is shady enough to be a suspect in Joe's murder, and his alibi is weak. Maya shares her discovery of Claire's burner phone calls to the arcade with Eva. She figures out that the calls were always made before the arcade opened, so she decides to check it out early in the morning. As soon as she arrives, she notices the red VW that has been tailing her. She quickly slips a tracker on it before the employee she met last time chases her away. Maya waits until the VW driver shows up and takes off. She follows him in her car, but the VW loses her in no time. But she asks Shane to monitor the tracker. She also informs him about Kurt's bribe, and he promises to investigate him while Maya teaches a helicopter lesson. Shane alerts her that the VW is nearby. She takes control of the chopper and chases the car from above but loses it in the trees. She lands in a clearing and abandons her bewildered student, who has to see the dentist soon. Maya runs into the woods where two thugs capture her and take her to Corey the whistleblower. He reveals that he has been in touch with Claire, who begged him not to expose Maya's involvement in the tape. He agreed but made her spy on Burkett Global for him. He believes that Claire and Joe discovered the same dark secrets that cost them their lives. Maya learns from Corey the whistleblower that the Burketts have been paying off Tommy Dark, a shady security contractor, for over 2 decades. Claire and Joe were on to him but evaded their inquiries. Joe had planned to meet Corey, who had developed feelings for Claire, but Joe was murdered before he could. Corey entrusts Maya with the clues he has and tells her to contact him at the arcade if she needs him. Maya tracks down Dark's office at the docks but only meets his distracted assistant, who confirms that Dark is a crook who owes her money. She recognizes Claire from Maya's picture and reveals that she never had an appointment with Dark. She also gives Maya his home address. Since she quit her job, Maya visits Dark's house, but he's not there. His wife greets her but is evasive about his work whereabouts and the Burkett's payments. Maya leaves her a card and urges her to call if she recalls anything. She joins Shane at the shooting range to examine the clues. Dark doesn't look wealthy, and his car has a stick that says, "Non-Sibby," said Patry, meaning, not for self, but for country. Maya wonders if this is related to Andrew's death at sea and asks Shane to dig deeper into Dark. Abby and Daniel sneak into Bimble, the tech company, by fooling the virtual assistant that greets them. They pretend to be the kids of an employee and explore the building. Alexander Dosman, the CEO, recognizes them and contacts them discreetly. He tells them to meet him at another place later where he will reveal what he knows. McGregor investigates Kurt's accident, but Kurt shows up with CCTV footage of the bikers who killed Joe. They trace one of the bikes to an address and find out that it belongs to Philip Dunn, Abby's football coach. Meanwhile, Abby meets Dosman at a secret location, leaving Daniel outside. She hopes to learn more from him at Forward. Caroline discovers the green shirt that Joe wore on the nanny cam and at Maya's house. Lily's cry wakes her up, and she doesn't find her in bed. So, she grabs a gun from her locker and puts on black gloves. She has a hidden 9mm Glock 17, the same type of gun that shot her sister and husband. The 4th episode begins with Maya searching for the intruder in her house. She finds Shane, who says he came to check on Lily and Maya after hearing them cry and scream. Maya lowers her gun and feels ashamed of her parenting skills in front of Shane. Shane tucks Lily in and advises Maya to seek professional help if she is having nightmares, but she denies any problem. He shares his latest research on Tommy, who was a Marine and the Y captain when Andrew died. Maya suspects that Tommy was bribed to cover up Andrew's death as a suicide instead of an accident. Shane also mentions Curse and says he has no dirt on him. He wonders why Maya hid the fact that she saw Joe on the nanny cam. Maya insists the video was not old. They review the clues and the possibilities that Joe is alive. Shane tries to help Maya accept Joe's death, but he admits there is something fishy about the death certificate. Maya also feels someone else is tormenting her. Abby meets Alexander and learns that he had no idea Claire was pregnant, which means he didn't kill her as they were just holiday flings who lost touch. He is shocked to find out he has a child and begs Abby for more details. But she leaves abruptly. Nicole visits Curse and urges him to go to the hospital and join their meetings. She worries that Curse is isolating himself from his loved ones and tries to keep him motivated. They're interrupted by Marty, who tells them that Phil's lawyer is here, and they can start the interrogation. KS and Marty question Phil, who denies any involvement but confesses that the bike is his. He says the bike was taken from him a few weeks ago, and Curse asks why he didn't report it. KS explains that this is a serious case, as the bike was used in a murder, and Phil says he has an alibi. Phil argues that the police have no solid proof that he was on the bike the night Joe was killed. However, Curse mentions Phil's teenage son PJ, who also rides the bike. He requests Phil to bring the boy for questioning the next day. Curse tells Marty to keep an eye on Phil and Eddie and to verify Eddie's alibi. He leaves the station, saying he has some errands to run and asking Marty to update him on any new developments. Marty discovers that Curse was lying about his accident. There was no cat involved. Curse spots Phil getting into a car owned by one of Burkett's firms and decides to tail him. He informs Marty that he is following Phil without a warrant. Maya joins Eddie and his kids at the park. Abby questions Maya about her mom's old boyfriend and pregnancy. Eddie interrupts their chat. He and Maya bury the hatchet and apologize to each other. They discuss the case of Claire's death. Maya says CLA pleaded with Corey not to release the rest of the audio as it would worsen Maya's situation. Maya thinks CLA was trying to help her when she made the deal with Corey to expose the Burkett's crimes. She is still investigating what really happened. She expresses her gratitude to Eddie for his patience, and says he is the only person she trusts to take care of Lily if anything goes wrong. She leaves Lily with Eddie while she goes to check something. Curse tails Phil, but Marty finds out that Eddie's alibi was a lie. He calls Curse to inform him, but Curse is following Phil to the school where he sees him meeting with PJ. But he faints before he can hear their conversation. Marty arrives later and assists him. Curse admits his blackouts to Marty, who is concerned for his health. They become closer, and Marty confides that he is gay. Judith calls Maya and urges her to change her mind about taking Lily to the estate later. Maya is surprised by a therapist, Dr. Wu, who was sent by Shane. Maya reluctantly talks to him and reveals her hallucinations and nightmares. She had a tough time in the army and feels guilty for an incident that occurred there. Dr. Wu advises her to face her problems and wonders if her Joe visions are linked to her PTSD. He tells her that she is experiencing flashbacks, not hallucinations. He thinks Maya needs to forgive herself to heal. Gradually after the session, Tommy's wife contacts Maya and asks to see her urgently. She did some research and discovered something fishy. She found proof that Tommy was paid by the Burketts and is concerned that she hasn't heard from him in 6 weeks. Claire's kids go through her belongings and find out she used the DNA tracing service a few years ago. They log into the app and try to locate their half-sibling. Sadly, they leave behind a clue, and Eddie finds it. He runs out to confront Alexander at his home. Maya confronts Judith about Tommy's payment, but Judith denies knowing him. Maya reminds her of Andrew and his mysterious death. Judith stalls, saying it's too painful to talk about. Maya presses on, revealing that Joe told her it was a suicide. She also mentions Detective KS, and Judith says she has nothing to do with him and that Caroline is ill. She says Caroline is in a mental hospital, and they hired Tommy to protect their reputation. Judith doesn't want any link to suicide. She asks Maya if she is all right and tells her to leave the family alone. As Maya walks away, we see Caroline peering at her from the window. Maya goes to the arcade club to ask Corey for help in finding Tommy, who has disappeared. Corey fears Diana in danger and feels guilty for Claire's death. Maya reveals that she killed some civilians in the army, and CLA was trying to protect her. Corey brings up Shane and wonders why Maya is still in contact with him. He says that the audio tape implicates Shane as well. He tells Maya that she has paid enough for her mistake, and that's why he has the second part of the tape. Maya stops by Eddie's house and faces the kids' curiosity about their half-sibling. She advises them to talk to Eddie, but Abby says he is upset and left. Abby suspects that the brother may have murdered their mom. So Maya shares Claire's story of her first pregnancy. They don't know that their half-sibling is nearby. Meanwhile, Curse and Marty discover that Eddie was lying about his whereabouts the night Joe died. He was with another woman. A mysterious person gets an alert that their DNA profile was checked. Could it be Abby and Daniel's half-brother? At night, Maya is about to sleep when her car alarm goes off. She checks outside but finds nothing. She doesn't know that Shane planted something on her car. Maya is haunted by a nightmare of Joe. She opens the door to see Eva, who is terrified that her abusive ex is spying on her through her nanny cam. She warns Maya that the same could happen to her. Maya wonders if someone tampered with her nanny cam and planted Joe's video. She asks Shane to check her Wi-Fi for any signs of hacking, but he finds nothing unusual. Maya and Kirst discuss the case, but she can't identify the attackers. She worries about Kay's health, but he brushes it off. Shane takes Maya and Lily out for a break. Judith calls Maya and pleads with her to visit the estate with Lily. Marty meets Molly and learns that Kirst hasn't told her about his blackouts. He urges Kirst to be honest with her before they get married. Abby signs up for a DNA site to find her half-brother. She gets a message from him, but keeps it a secret from Dan. She is shocked to discover that he is Louis, a school employee who wanted to be near them and Claire. Louis confesses to Abby that he is her half-brother. Claire had given him up for adoption when she was young. They had recently reconnected, but he never got to know her well before she was killed. She'd taken him to a fancy school and asked him to act like a prospective student. Maya, who is at the Burkett mansion, hears this from Abby. Maya sees Caroline fleeing and chases her. She finds herself in an upstairs corridor with old family pictures. She recognizes Joe's school name and decides to check it out. She leaves Lily with Judith and drives to the school. She breaks into the headmaster's office and gets caught. The headmaster agrees to talk to her after she tells him that she is Joe's widow and threatens to make Judith stop funding the school. He tells her the truth about the day Joe died in 1996. Claire was looking into the death of Theo Mora, Joe's friend who had overdosed on alcohol. The headmaster tells Maya that Theo's death was an accident after a wild party. He says Andrew killed himself out of grief and asks Maya to leave his family alone. He also reveals another boy who was on the yacht with Andrew, Christopher Swain. Eddie admits to the detectives that he lied about where he was the night Joe died. He says he almost cheated on CLA with a stranger but didn't kill Joe. Kirst goes to the hospital with Nicole for some tests. He learns that he has a serious illness that is getting worse. He blames his drinking for it, but the doctor is not sure. She tries to comfort him and give him some answers. KS breaks up with Molly at the church, fearing he will drag her down with his illness. He flees to a bridge where he calls Nicole for support. He feels guilty and hopeless. He ignores Marty, who is busy probing the coach's son. Maya learns from Eddie that Abby is gone. She tells him about Abby's half-brother Louis. Eddie confronts Alexander and urges him to bond with Louis. Abby calls and says she's okay. Maya meets Theo's mom, who suspects foul play in her son's death. She blames the wealthy school crowd for covering it up. She says Andrew killed himself out of remorse. Maya gets a message from Corey to meet him at the arcade. He has a clue about Tommy's whereabouts. Tommy has vanished but rented a storage unit. As they head there, Corey tells her that Claire uncovered Burkett's deadly drug scandal. Their antibiotics were addictive and lethal, but they kept selling them and covering up their crimes. CLA knew too much and paid with her life. They reach the storage unit and see Tommy's frozen corpse inside. The episode begins with Detective KS and Nicole at the bridge where he receives a call from Marty about a new crime scene. He rushes to join Marty and meets Maya, who claims she found Tommy Dark's corpse in a freezer after an anonymous tip. She was hoping Tommy could help her find out what happened to her sister. She wants to leave, but Marty stops her. She lashes out at him, and Detective Kirst intervenes. He reminds Marty that Maya is a Burkett, and they need solid proof to arrest her. They come to confiscate Maya's car, and Detective KIR mocks her for being surrounded by dead bodies. Maya accuses him of working for the Burketts. She accuses Detective KS of being a Burkett's puppet, but he denies it. He takes her to his modest home and shows her his financial records. He tells her he has a fiancé and a baby on the way, and he would never jeopardize them for money. He asks her why she suspects him, and she brings up Caroline. He challenges her to report him if she thinks he is corrupt, and he urges her to come clean if she is innocent. He warns her that finding Tommy's corpse makes her a prime suspect. She reveals that Tommy worked for the Burkitts, but she doesn't know anything else. Later, Maya gets Lily from Eddie, who picked her up from Judith. They discuss Maya's situation and Tommy's death. They wonder if Tommy was killed because of CLA. Maya feels the pressure mounting, and Eddie helps her track down Swain. He identifies the building in Swain's photo. They also bond over their grief and support each other. Maya slips into the building and discovers that Swain has been sent to rehab again after his latest wild party. He seems to have a serious drinking problem that he can't overcome. At the police station, Marty covers for Detective CS and finds out about his partner's tragic past. KS lost his first fiancée to a murderer while she was on duty, which drove him to alcoholism. Eddie has a heart-to-heart talk with his daughter about her half-brother. He tells her that he wasn't involved in CLA's death and asks for her permission to contact him. Dan overhears their conversation and feels betrayed that his sister met their new brother without him. Meanwhile, Curse confesses his fear of dying and leaving his family alone at an AA meeting. Nicole urges him to be honest with Molly about his addiction. He finally opens up to her and is relieved by her unconditional love and support. At the same time, Maya receives a mysterious call from Caroline, who claims to have a message from Joe for her. The call is cut off before she can hear more. When Maya tries to call back, a silent man answers and breathes heavily. Maya is terrified and locks herself and Lily in the house. She starts to remember all the strange events that have been happening lately as she writes down some notes. A creepy man stares at her through the window. Eddie invites Louis over to meet his other siblings. They bond over their family history, and Eddie proposes to introduce Louis to his dad. Louis eagerly accepts, and his sister warms up to him, telling him stories about their mom. Meanwhile, Maya is in trouble as the police find Tommy's blood in her boot. They also discover that she lied about being alone at Tommy's locker. They are her and interrogate her again. Maya denies any involvement and says she is being set up. She reveals that she is working with Corey, the whistleblower who exposed the company's shady practices. She believes that CLA was murdered because of what she knew about the company's drugs. The police rush to locate Corey, and the boss tells Marty and KIR to split up and search for him. Marty worries about K's leniency towards Maya and his health condition. He forbids him from driving until he recovers. KS assures him that he feels better after talking to Molly. Meanwhile, Shane takes Maya home from the police station and presses her for the truth. She remains silent about her situation. She vows to tell him everything soon and to stop lying to him. He informs her about Swain, whose rich family has hidden his DUIs. Maya seeks Judith's help to locate Swain. Judith agrees but urges Maya to talk to someone about her troubles. She hints at Joe's secrets and expresses her fear of losing Maya as well. During this visit, Maya secretly plants a tracker on Isabella's boyfriend's car who works for Judith. Curse learns that a military officer requested access to Claire's case. He suspects it is Shane, and his boss tells him to meet the officer. While they're talking, Corey hacks the police system and locks them out. Curse calls Marty to alert him that Corey knows their plan and is not at the arcade. He thinks Corey is hiding in the woods and decides to go there. Marty is unhappy with this and hurries to join him. Maya gets a call from Shane on her way to the rehab that Judith suggested. She pretends to be at home and says she can't see him. She doesn't know that Shane is at her house and knows she is lying. She reaches the rehab and meets Wayne. She introduces herself as Joe's widow and questions him about Andrew's death. She is stunned when Swain says that Joe killed Andrew. In episode 7, Maya confronts Swain about his accusation that Joe murdered his brother. Swain tells her the story of how Joe became jealous of Theo, a new student at Franklin Biddle Academy. Theo was charismatic, friendly, and athletic. He seemed to have it all. One day, Joe and his friends, including Swain and Andrew, decided to haze Theo as a prank. They lured him out of his room and tied him to a chair. Then Joe forced a funnel into Theo's mouth and poured a large amount of vodka down his throat. Theo started to convulse, but Joe didn't stop. He kept pouring until Theo was dead. Joe made the others promise to keep quiet, and they left Theo's body behind. In a flashback, we see how Joe killed Andrew on the yacht after he threatened to expose their involvement in Theo's death. Joe pushed Andrew overboard and watched him drown. Swain witnessed the whole thing but was too afraid to speak up. Now, with Joe gone, he finally tells Maya the truth about what happened that night. Meanwhile, KS finds Corey hiding in the woods and arrests him. He accuses him of being part of Tommy's murder and hid in his body. Corey denies everything and asks for a private talk with Curse. He reveals his secret investigation into Burkett's Global, a shady company that produces faulty drugs. KS is shocked to learn that these drugs are the cause of his condition. He has been addicted to them, and now his life is in danger. He also realizes that Nicole, his dead fiancée, is a figment of his imagination. He blames himself for not being there when she died. He bids farewell to her ghost, and Marty sees him talking to thin air. He updates KS that they have a lead on PJ. On the other hand, Maya gets a call from Shane, who tells her that the police are onto him for testing a bullet for her. Shane is more confused when he discovers that the same gun killed Joe and CLA. Maya urges him to trust her and says she is coming over. She meets him and discusses the army incident that resulted in the death of innocent civilians. Maya explains that she defied orders and fired a missile at a van that was approaching her wounded team. She hoped to save them, but she ended up killing innocent civilians. She is overcome with remorse while Shane is stunned. He had no idea they lacked clearance to attack. Maya then lies to him that she needs a bathroom break and slips away. She receives a notification that Luca, the brother of her target Isabella, is on the move. She ditches her SIM card, gets a new phone and a hat to disguise herself. She contacts Eddie with a new phone and arranges a meeting. Eddie is puzzled by her erratic behavior, and she tells him she's in danger. She also says she had to find out who murdered CLA. They go to Lily's school where she gives Eddie permission to pick up her daughter later. She also asks him to keep an eye on Lily from a distance before parting ways. She persuades Eddie to swap cars with her. The detectives receive a lead on PJ's location and rush to catch him before he escapes. PJ sees them and flees to the rooftop. KS, despite his illness, chases him and traps him on the edge. PJ clings to a chimney, terrified of falling. Curse climbs up and interrogates him about Joe's murder. PJ confesses that he was in the park but claims he didn't kill Joe. He says he and his friend Rambo were there to snatch purses and phones. Rambo shot Joe and ran to him. They both got out of the park, but PJ crashed his bike. He called his dad for help, but Phil told him to keep quiet about what he witnessed. While they talk, Kay feels faint and loses his balance. PJ reaches out to help him but slips and falls. He survives the fall, but Curse realizes he is unfit for duty and gets suspended. Marty regrets not turning in Curse and bids him farewell. Curse keeps Rambo's name a secret and says PJ was useless. He also confesses that the drugs are killing him, and he feels it's too late. He ignores his suspension and goes after Rambo. He corners him in the restroom and demands to know his role in Joe's death. Meanwhile, Maya finds Isabella and Luca and points a gun at them. She sees Joe's clothes in their stuff, and they confess they faked the video. Luca dressed as Joe, and they used their wedding footage to fool her. Maya is speechless when they say Judith hired them. Judith thinks Maya murdered Joe and wanted to drive her crazy and make her slip up. Maya forces Isabella and Luca into Luca's truck and hears Shane shout her name. Shane wants an answer, and Maya bluntly says that she killed Joe after finding out his true identity. The shocking truth comes out in episode 8 as Maya confesses to Shane that she is Joe's killer. She reveals that Joe had killed Claire, who had discovered his dark secret. Maya couldn't believe it at first, but her investigation led her to undeniable evidence of Joe's guilt. Maya had been suspicious of Joe for months. She got Shane to test a bullet and found out that Joe killed her sister with their own gun. She lured Joe to the park and confronted him with his crime. She also tricked him by swapping his gun with a fake one. Joe killed Claire because she was digging into his dark past and working with Corey to expose Burkhead Global. Joe had murdered his brother Anthony, a student he envied. He feared CLA would uncover his secrets and ruin his life. He staged a robbery at her house and shot her dead. He almost got away with it, but Maya became suspicious of him. Joe tried to kill Maya too, but she had swapped his gun with a fake one. She shot him twice and pretended to be a grieving widow. She blamed his death on some bikers, then she shot him again to finish him off. Maya tells Shane to let Isabella and Luca go near their place. She goes home and leaves a note for Lily. She recalls that Joe borrowed her car once. She thinks he used it to move Tommy's body to the storage. Her husband was truly a monster. Rambo admits to KS that he witnessed Maya kill Joe. Curse contacts Marty and asks him to track Maya's car, but Maya swapped cars with Eddie. Marty and Curse chase Eddie to Lily's school. Eddie says his car has a tracker and it's at Maya's house. KS goes to the house and cuffs Maya. She begs him for a chance to explain everything. They make a plan to expose Judith and the family's secrets. Maya joins forces with Corey and KS to expose the family's secrets to the world. She plants a hidden camera in Judith's house and broadcasts their conversation live. Judith, Caroline, and Neil come back from a meeting and find Maya waiting for them. Maya accuses Judith of setting her up and confesses to shooting Joe. She also leaves her gun on the table as a trap. Maya and Judith argue about the past, including Theo, Andrew, Claire, and the faulty drugs. Caroline is speechless by the revelations. Judith tries to convince Maya that they can pin everything on Joe and move on. She says they can start fresh and forget their troubles, but Maya tells her it's too late for that. Neil loses his patience and snatches the gun from the table. He decides to kill Maya and frame it as self-defense. He fires 3 shots at her, ending her life. Maya's last words are a smile and a sigh of relief. She had been broadcasting their confession live to the world. Judith gasps in horror as she realizes Maya's trap. The Burkhead secrets are exposed, and they face legal and financial ruin. Curse grieves over Maya's passing, but Corey clarifies that Maya chose this outcome intentionally. She deliberately left the gun, opting for her own demise, overwhelmed by the guilt of causing harm to civilians. 18 years later, Lily joyfully welcomes her own baby girl. In the hospital, Maya Kir visits them, witnessing their happiness. He expresses relief for overcoming his illness. Eddie, who nurtured Lily as his own, is present alongside Shane, who stands by Lily's side, beaming with pride. This the ends of the movie series.